I'm Susmini, your host for the day, and the director of the Digital Nomad CMX community powered by Baby. So it is with immense pleasure that I welcome you all to again this beautiful event on building purposeful communities with Michelle from Nauru. So before we start off, I would like to get to know each other and sort of like say where we are from and like what are the communities we are representing so that we can get to know like where the audience is from. You can use the chat. You don't have to like actually speak up. No worries about not being able to join via camera. Just drop a message on the chat saying where you are from and like what the communities you represent are. Until everyone types in, I will just introduce myself. I'm again Sasmini. I am originally from Sri Lanka, but I'm based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia at the moment. And I'm building a community called Digital Nomad Life, which is for digital nomads and slow mads. So, which is basically like slow travelers. And yes, Tulita, thank you so much for joining all the way from Sri Lanka. And hi, Freya from Philippines. Of course, thank you so much for joining in. So until all of you guys sort of like introduce yourself, I will just get my presentation super quick, and we can start off. Okay, so again, warm welcome to today's event. In terms of what to expect today, it would be like a very brief introduction that I'm doing right now, and then presentation on the topic at hand by our lovely Michelle, and then we will go into a Q&A for 15 minutes if anyone of you have questions, and then we will do concluding remarks at the end. And in terms of CMX Virtual Connect guidelines that you just need to keep in mind, these are like not hard and fast rules. If you are not able to keep your cameras turned on, we understand, of course, no problem at all. And in terms of like leaving comments, please use the chat to leave any comments you have, and then also ask any questions you have in our Q&A tab that I'll be launching in a bit. And also finally, the grab your favorite snack or drink and enjoy. So in terms of giving you a bit of understanding of what our community partners, the organizations that made this possible, this event possible, in terms of like this org- this com- this event is organized by CMX Connect, and CMX Connect is a global community of community professionals spanned all over the world with 40 plus chapters. And these events are about harnessing this incredible power of community, and for us to the community professionals to come together in person and virtually to learn, grow, and of course, well, very get connected. And then we also have a few partners that we would like to acknowledge. These events, CMX Connect events, are powered by Berry, a software company in the business of building and scaling in-person communities. And we are also in collaboration with Naru, our community partner, which is a community platform to empower social impact. And they are on a mission to create a safe space for every human to grow through social accountability. How cool is that? And finally, and Digital Nomad Life, which is a travel and lifestyle recommendation platform for nomads and slow mads. So without further delays, let me get it right into the topic at hand. We have Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining in. She is the product founder at Naru, and with 4+ years of experience working as a UX designer in the APAC region for universities and startups. So she also comes with a multicultural Asian background, and her passion lies in social equality and mental health, specifically helping for impact communities to make a sustainable impact to uplift the world. And I have to mention that she is also a digital nomad, a biological sciences nerd, and most importantly, a cat mom. So thank you so much, Michelle, for giving us your time and sharing your knowledge with us. I would like to warmly welcome on behalf of everyone, and the session is all over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks for mentioning I'm a cat mom. I miss my cat so much. So yes, hi Michelle, everyone. So I'm joining from Singapore, but as some of you guys might know, I'm half Taiwanese. My dad is actually Indonesian Chinese. So pretty mixed in the APAC region here, and it's always a confusion whenever you look like this but speak like a white person. So I'll get started with my presentation, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end of the session as well. And I think Sesmini will open up like a Q&A. So anytime you guys have any questions or comments, there will be some interactive activities as well. Hopefully, if some of you guys could chime in to add your answers into the comments, and we'll get started shortly as soon as I get my slides up. Awesome. So does that look good for everyone, I'm hoping? Okay. So building purposeful communities. Thank you all for joining. Now, before we start, since I am Australian by citizenship and also usually where I reside, for something that we like to do in Australia is actually acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of which we usually meet in. I'm definitely not meeting in Australia right now. I'm in Singapore, but I'm acknowledging the traditional owners of the Wurundjeri people, the Kulin Nation in Australia, of which I usually reside in. I also extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. So all of that is basically an acknowledgement of country that Australians do. And if you guys haven't heard of this before, maybe this is something that you could also do in your country. I find it super insightful to learn about where people are from, as well as the traditional owners of their land as well. So, building purposeful communities in the APAC region. Something that some of you guys may or may not know is that Australia used to be a really thriving country, but it's always quite distant geographically. And usually when something like COVID-19 happens, all of us gets pretty isolated. And so when Melbourne went into lockdowns in about 2020, 2021, lasted for over like 3 years, I'd say, but there was at least lockdowns for 8 months. There was like a 5-kilometer social radius, social bubbles. You could only go out to buy groceries and exercise for 1 hour a day. So it was pretty much like a prison. You can imagine the types of social, the mentality that puts people in whenever they're in that position. And so social isolation was a really big thing. And that obviously affected a lot of the mental health of our citizens in Australia and Melbourne especially. I'm sure all the psychologists were like double booked themselves, were having a hard time, maybe needing therapists as well. So it was really hard to sort of keep engaged and really hard to feel like you weren't alone, which is now coming into the definition of how and why we need to make communities purposeful, right? So imagine you're in a community where you're not particularly feeling like you're involved, you're not particularly feeling valued, there's not enough trust, and you're not quite sure, whether people really care. That's the type of community that's quite dry, and usually that they show themselves as a bit silent. People aren't really there for any reason and not quite sure how to engage, and all of those stuff that comes with an isolated community, which is why we need to ask more purposeful questions. For example, how might we define communities to be purposeful? What does purpose actually mean in a community? So these are the questions we'll be running through today, hopefully. Second of all, how can we connect with people in an authentic way, especially in a digital world, when everything is online and everything is becoming more digital. AI is replacing a lot of those interactions, obviously, of us having to do everything manually ourselves. How can we actually still connect with people in an authentic way? That's a really crucial point, especially for communities driving themselves into a digital environment or even a hybrid environment into the future. As well as how can we feel supported by like-minded people? As we know, whenever we scroll on social media and go out and visit different things that we like. A lot of the times we're surrounded by people who are like us, but how do we feel supported by them? How do we feel like supported if we want to join a new community as well? If we want to do something for the first time or start a new transformative journey in our lives, how could we feel supported by these people? And so if we wanted to break everything down into a little handbook that said community tactics, one, this would pretty much be the slide, and I'd pretty much just pack my bag and go home for the day, after I tell you guys these three things. But I'd also like to flip the switch. So after we go through these three things, I'd like to flip it a little bit and think about it from the member's perspective. So let's take a look at it from the community manager's perspective first, right? We have discovery, which, as you guys know, it might be the importance of having a clear vision, telling people what you're working on, what your community is about, showing them your mission, all that really bland stuff that I'm sure a lot of businesses do already. And I'm sure you guys already have in the back of your mind. But it's something that all community builders and all community managers need to know, right? When they're telling other people to join a community, what is it that they're doing? What is the mission of this community? Now, the second of all, we have onboarding, which is basically we want to increase the participation. We want to make sure that they're engaged from the very, very start. New members aren't feeling isolated. And lastly, we have empowerment, which is to support and empower members. But if you kind of think of it from this perspective, there's so many tactics that you could possibly do. There's a lot of tactics to increase engagement, show people your clear vision, and we will dive into these today. But very importantly, I want to put your minds into the brains, the mindset of a member joining a community for the first time. And this is something that I like to do because of my background as a UX designer. I like to think about the journey, as you say, like the customer journey, the user journey. Put your minds into the shoes of those people who are coming into your community today. So the discovery section actually looks like a few questions that they're trying to answer. They're probably asking, what is your community about? Why should I join? Out of all of these other communities I could be joining, why yours? What's so special about your community? And who will I meet? Are those people going to like me? Are those people going to be of value? And, are we going to be friends, or is this weird and I'm not sure what we're doing here, So these are the questions that you need to be answering for these members. It's just like you're meeting someone for the first time. You have that kind of like first impression, you're like, judging each other, 3-second rule, and there's like that kind of like awkward period where you're trying to get to know whether you're a good match. And secondly, there's the onboarding section, which is what am I expected to do, right? Once I've signed in the registration form, I put in my email, but what am I supposed to do now? And how can I connect with someone so I don't feel so alone, Other than the community manager themselves, do they know anyone else in that community to actually connect with? If there was an event happening in their local area or even online, is there someone else who's actually asking them to come as well? There's a lot of these things, right, in the onboarding process that actually have a lot of drop-off rates, especially when members are feeling like they're not adequate or even valued enough to be there. So this is the part where you're trying to answer these questions. What are they expected to do? How can they connect with other people so they don't feel alone? We'll break these down to a lot of strategies later on. Lastly, we have empowerment. So once members graduate from a community, once members actually, complete the whole journey and maybe go through this whole transformation, complete this course or everything that you've wanted them to do, how can they exit in a very elegant and also sustainable way? So hopefully they're still contributing to your community even after they've graduated. How can they pay it forward? So now these new members who are coming in, how can they be really good mentors or alumni or people who could tell stories about their journey through your community? So all three of these are quite important, but you can tell that the questions are actually not that hard to answer whenever you think about it from the member's perspective. It's just as easy as meeting someone for the first time, making a first impression, making sure the report is shared. It's actually pretty simple. But when we think about all these community tactics, things can get pretty complicated, right? So here we'll be digging, basically breaking them down into the 3 steps. So first of all, let's go discovery process. I'm not sure how many of you guys already know about this mission, vision, impact statement thing. If you guys work in startups or have a business yourself, or perhaps are involved in the earlier stages of forming a community, maybe you've heard of these before, but it's actually pretty simple. Even if you haven't used these terminologies, definitely you've had these touch points with your potential community members or your existing community members. Maybe you've had a website where you talk about, this is what my community is all about, this is where we're based, this is who we are. Maybe you have social media where you're posting about the types of things that you do, and definitely in your branding, anytime where you have a logo, that itself tells other people what you are. The exact name, the color, and everything actually goes into determining what type of business or what type of community you are. And definitely when you talk about it to other people, you're trying to pitch about your community, right? So all of these are actually already something that you might be doing. But if we wanted to make things a bit clearer and use something that I like to call the law of attraction, there's actually a lot of power in creating this mission, vision, and impact statement to be very clear and very straightforward in order for people to immediately grasp what you're doing and to understand whether they're a great match for your community. So just to dive things a little bit deeper and not to focus, too much on the members' perspective as well, we kind of have to balance the both. If we think about community as something that a business uses to, enlarge their audience, engage their existing audience, all of that, there's this really great model by David Sphinx, who used to, he was the initial founder of the CMX. So if you guys don't know him, better check him out. I've got the link to the blog in the slides, but you'll also be able to search him up. I'm sure there's plenty of articles he's written. He's got a great newsletter. So if we wanted to break these down into the spaces model, these are basically the six, six different types of community that businesses build and the reasons why businesses build these communities. So if you think about the vision and the mission impact statement a bit more carefully, actually what you're trying to do is to encapsulate what the members can get out of the community as well as what the business can get out of the community. So if you think about these six different categories, for example, in support, you want to give people the access to your products and access to your services. Your mission or vision statement could include that type of language into your statement in order to tell people that this is why you're part of the community, in order to gain access, in order to empower your usage of these products or services. If you're in a product space, perhaps you'd like them to not only use your products or services but also influence it. Maybe you'd like to do a little R&D with them, understand what they think, as well as incorporate a lot of their feedback and co-build that product with them. If you're in the acquisition space, what you're trying to get the community to do is definitely to learn or master a type of product or a skill or a topic area. So you're acquiring users to all do something and learn something together, such as an educative class or a program or a cohort, something like that. And if you're in the content space, you're asking users to generate a lot of content for you. So you want your business to actually benefit from the user-generated content and to share whatever that they share in the community to other people as well. And we have engagement, which is actually split into two different parts. So if you're externally engaging, it means you're trying to bring people together around a common interest that's related to your brand, your product. If you're internally engaging, it means you're trying to engage your employees, your suppliers, or people within your social circle already in order to work towards a specific goal or to work with a specific product. And lastly, we have success, which is actually the highest percentage of you community builders today would probably be in the success category, where you're trying to help people to support and to basically decrease, customer service load and to help people get to the help that they need in order to use your product or service. So these are all just really great strategies that you could think about, put yourself in a category and incorporate that into your mission and your vision statements. So let's look at an example. And guiltily enough, I do have to use my own company or my own brand as an example, because I'm the only person who knows about my mission the best. So the mission of Naru is to unite the world's next generation of change makers and to amplify the social impact through accountability, mental well-being, and collaboration. You can tell that I've broken these sections into three very important parts, which is the who is it that you serve? Who is your target audience? Who is it that you're calling these people? So for Naru, we're calling them change makers. This actually is a statement that I like to continue to use repeatedly in order to make sure that people know that once you're a Naru, you're a change maker. You're here to change something in the world, right? And next we have, what does your community do? So what I like to do is, like, Naru is here to unite as well as amplify their social impacts. So now that we have a group of change makers, we'd like to help them improve in their perspective of how they can impact in the world. So amplify the social impact through accountability, mental well-being, and collaboration. So through is the how. So you can say through events, through in-person meetups, or through all these sorts of things, through mentorship. There could be a lot of different reasons and a lot of different strategies how you bring that community together. And always keep in mind the spaces model as well. How does it serve the business, not just the members? How does it serve the business in the long run, so you can actually sustain your efforts in this community? Next, we have the vision, which is quite daunting when you think about it usually. So you're like, okay, what's the vision? What's the vision board? What is it that's important? Where are we going? And sometimes it's not clear, but you'll know when something does ring true. This is why I like to use the exercise why. You might have heard about it before. I'm not sure. Simon Sinek's, advertised a lot about his book of why, but basically what you need to do is ask the question why several times to yourself. So, for example, why are we in the business? To unite the world's next generation of change makers and all that. Why are we doing this? What makes us different? Why us, right? And if once you ask it a few different times, you'll actually reach an answer that sounds really simple and really true and really clear to other people, and clear to yourself, hopefully clear to your whole team, in order for them to also be on board this whole vision as well. So Nara's why is to empower social impact that uplifts the world. It's a very grand why. You'll see that these visions don't need to be that clear, and that's why you have the mission to actually break that down. The vision should be something simple in order for people to emotionally attach something that their future in something that they see in your vision statement. And lastly, this is something that I like to add just as a little optional thing, but also it's really impactful, which is the impact statement. And basically, you want to be able to measure your why. You want to be able to measure how can you actually achieve that why. And so using the words "so that" at the end of your mission statement is actually a really simple strategy for you to get that impact statement into that statement as well. So for example, we want to unite the world's next generation of change makers and amplify the social impact through accountability, mental well-being, and collaboration, so that 1 million leaders can build sustainable communities to change the world. So you can see that the why and the impact statement is already in the first part, and then the impact statement itself, which is a bit like a North Star, is at the second part. And so you want to be really clear to define the metrics of what you want to measure, in order to tell people this is what you're set out to do and this is how you can measure your success. So if we have a few moments, Sasmini, we're still, I think, on time. I'd love for you all to give that a try. It's pretty simple. You can take a screenshot and work on it later. But if you guys already have, a mission or a vision statement, and even an impact statement, I'd love to see some answers in the comments, so that we could sort of like know what other people are working on as well. It could be a great opportunity for you to find other people who might be aligned with your vision and mission statements. So I'll give you guys maybe 2 minutes, but otherwise I'd love to hear more from the audience, if you'd love to open your mic to talk about what your experience is in this space.
Hey Michelle. So like we are just talking about like mission, vision, and impact statements that exist in the communities of our audience, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Okay, cool. I was just like, I'm thinking of launching like a new community under the Digital Nomad Life, and specifically for slow travelers.
Mm,
And something that I've been thinking about is like the vision for it is actually like, uh, the why I think that community matters is like because all of us are like, even if we are slow traveling or like travel like fast like digital nomads, it's always like a lonely journey. So even if
Mm.
you are like a couple all the time, so to make good friends and sort of like travel together sometimes, it's like important, so to make it like less lonely for traveling. So that's like kind of like the that makes it a vision, right? Because at the moment
Yeah.
I'm actually working on my community strategy as well, so I thought.
I love that. Slow mads. That's such a, it's like a ring to the name. I've heard of like slow living, which is like, I don't know, the trend or something that, my old age is just getting me to say, all right, you gotta slow down.
Yeah.
um, I'm actually not that. I'll just say I'm really old because I got heaps of white hair. um, but no, it's such a great way to see. I think sometimes the vision statement just comes when you want to do something innately in the world today. Like you
Hmm.
might see something on the streets, you might have a certain personal experience that really has defined you, and that as your vision statement can be very powerful because it sort of allows you to work on that, allows you to empower yourself and empower your company, empower your brand to work on that thing that you just saw, that social injustice, that inequality, or something that you're witnessing in this world that you're like, okay, that's just really not right, and I really want to do something about it. That as a vision statement is extremely powerful, especially when we talk about it's the whole law of attraction. The clearer you are in telling people what you do, the easier it is for people to actually come to you. You're already showing what you do in the things that you do, what you write on social media, and all of that. It's a lot easier for the right people and those people with the same values to come towards you. And so it's a bit like a personal branding exercise, if you want to call it that way as well, because when you think about the vision statement, it should be deeply personal, and it should like inspire other people to go through that journey with you as well. Yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, as
Thanks.
a past digital nomad, I guess I totally get the whole loneliness thing. You're like, cool. I look great on social media, but I'm just sitting in this room like I don't know what I'm doing. And there's that like disposition between like the reality and expectations. So yeah, awesome.
So we don't have anyone sharing on the chat. So would you like to move on to the next?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no worries. So let's go on, and there'll be a few more exercises, and we'll see what we have time to share as well. Cool. All right. So now we're in the second part. We've done all the discovery, we've done all the attracting people to the right place, attracting the right people here. Now we're in the onboarding part, right? And just to talk about the whole digital nomad thing, imagine you're taking a flight to another country. Imagine you're taking a flight to a destination they've always wanted to visit. Me, maybe something in the northern European regions. What are the steps that are required for you to hop onto that flight? You're not just going to, bring yourself onto that flight, call it a day, and be like, yep, I trust exactly where I'm going. You're going to do a lot of preparation work in order to build yourself and to prepare yourselves to get there, right? So that's pretty much what onboarding is. It's the process of which a user or a member goes through in order to get to the destination that they're hoping to get to. And there's a lot of parts in this onboarding process. There could be a sign-up registration flow. There could be, an interview in which you're asking your members whether they're a right fit for your community and what they'd like to achieve out of this community. There might be a getting started package that you're already using, sending them a few links, sending them a little step-by-step process in order to get themselves sorted. And definitely there could be in-person events to welcome everyone in the right place, to allow people to meet each other as well. But most importantly, in this onboarding process, we want to come across as very authentic. And this is
Um,
where,
I'm sorry, Michelle,
yeah,
but there's a bit of feedback that comes with the mic. Uh,
okay,
yeah,
sorry,
when you move.
I might be
Okay.
like, yep, I'll
Okay.
try to straighten it. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, where was I? So yes, the onboarding process. It's actually quite an important process, and we'll get through why it's important just right now. So when you think about onboarding, it's all about crossing a bridge of trust. So in order to get people to trust you, there's a lot of different steps involved. We humans already do it naturally when we're in person, right? We shake hands, we give each other a hug, we have a meal together, even sit in front of each other. All that builds a lot of trust. But when you're in a digital community, it's really hard. And this is what can happen when we don't have that trust. And often you might find yourselves in those situations. I've definitely found myself in an awkward sort of space in a digital community, thinking, I'm not sure why I'm here. I'm not sure why I've subscribed to this community. I feel alone. Maybe I'm like, oh, I'm too busy to engage. There's so many notifications and they're not relevant to me. I'm just going to ignore them, right? And that's what happens when there's no trust factor, because I don't actually have anything in stake for me to contribute to that community. There's no that social pressure might be very external. So it might be that, oh, people just expect me to do this, but I don't really know why I'm doing this. I don't really have a reason to do this. And definitely I would not be able to refer anyone to this community because I don't even know what this community does, right? You might be in this place where you're like, oh, there's no like social organic referrals and people are like not really engaging. Well, that's because there might not be enough trust in your community. And so this is why we want to cross over to the other side where the community is thriving. This community has a lot of excitement. People are there for a reason. So instead of saying, I'm not sure why I'm here, people say, I'm so excited to be here. I feel really supported and I feel really valued. I know exactly why I'm here in order to achieve my goals that align with the community's goals. And I'm here for a reason to basically empower myself. I'm driven by my personal values, which are now aligned to the values of other people here as well. And I'm definitely able to explain why the community exists. I'm definitely able to refer this community to other people that also aligns with my values and potentially the community's values as well. So this whole bridge of trust seems very daunting, but it's actually being like practiced by a lot of communities that are very successful out there. And I'd like to just showcase this with two examples. We'll first start with an in-person community example that's really successful called the Startup Network. So this is a network in Melbourne, Australia, just nationally, which is an independent startup community of diverse startup founders. They're also a non-for-profit entity and non-government entity as well. So they're solely funded by the members who attend their events and attend the networking and be a part of this community. So you can see that they've got a lot of engagement, especially in the Eventbrite even. They have 3,000 plus Eventbrite followers and they have 28% repeat customers on Eventbrite, which means 28% of those event people who are going to these events, like a quarter of them are coming back to the next event, plus they'll probably attract new members as well. So you can see that the strategies that they use, especially in the types of events that they host, are all to build trust. So for example, the pitch nights, it's an open stage for anyone to talk about their startup idea or for anyone to pitch about what they're working on. And it doesn't have to be super formal. It's just a pitch night. And people are able to come in multiple times, pitch a few times. And it's a totally private, safe space for people to share about what they're working on. And mind you, this is a startup network. It's a community of founders. So people are there to connect with other founders as well, showcase and exhibit what they're working on. They had a really awesome female founders showcase recently, and it's just amazing, like being able to connect with a few people, adding each other on LinkedIn, having those first initial connections in order for them to be top of mind. So the next time you come to an event, they're like, oh, that person's going to be there, or I met this person there, and hopefully I'll meet other people like them as well because they're getting something in return. So that's where the trust factor can really play when you're in person, community as well. But some of us don't have the luxury to always be in person, right? And so instead of showing you a digital community, I want to show you guys this really popular language app that has just taken over the world. They have 17 million daily active users. That is a lot. That is almost like more than half the population of Australia. And Australia's a pretty big country. We do have a small population though, but still, that's a lot of people, and they're always on Duolingo every single day. And some of these strategies that they've used have even reduced their churn rate, so the percentage of people who actually leave the app or the community by 10%. So, for example, what they do is they make it really easy to start. So if your onboarding process is really long, they have to answer questionnaire after questionnaire after questionnaire, there's always going to be dropout rate. And when you make things easy for them so that they finish what they need to do and then they get to the meat of the community straight away, they get the value back in return straight away so that it's very rewardable. They have the instant feedback. It's a lot easier for members to understand, okay, I've done what I need to do. I'm in the right place and that's it. If I need to fill in any more forms, that comes later. That comes way later. That comes after you already know that they're engaging, that you already know that they're part of this community. All that can actually happen in a much later stage. So you don't make it so hard for people to commute and to start engaging. I like to use this little bird green owl thing as an example for it to be memorable as well. What is it about your community that's memorable? It could be a particular face. It could be, if you're the community manager, maybe your persona or the way that you show yourself in an event, or the colors that you wear and everything that you do is all a part of the face of that community, and perhaps all about how people actually remember your community by, because they're not just remembering what you do, they're remembering a picture, an image of the last time they interacted with your community as well. So making it memorable is really important. Leaderboards is a great way, especially if you add in bits of gamification, make it a competition, make it engaging so that people can competitively, work on something together. So they have that social accountability as well. And obviously, the instant feedback is really important as well, especially if you're a community which encourages learning and acquisition for people to, go along the journey to basically learn a course or do anything like that. So instant feedback is really also important. Um, we have a few strategies here to kind of sprinkle in some inspiration in case you guys are, looking for some. I've got 3 different methods. I won't go into them in too much detail, but feel free to take a screenshot or to, rewatch this recording and pause it here. Um, these 3 methods will help you accelerate the engagement strategy in your community. It will make that onboarding process seamless, and it will help people gain the trust of your community straight away. So method 1, we have the buddy system. Basically, this helps communities which are mostly based around similar topics or common interests for people to basically form groups of 2 to 4. If you've heard of the elephant group theory or the mastermind theory, we work best in groups of 4 people, maximum 4 people. Once it gets more than that, there's not as much rapport sharing, there's not as much engagement, because we might feel like, oh, there's other people talking on the table, I don't need to contribute. When there's a few number of people in your smaller groups, about 2 to 4 people, everybody gets a say. Everybody's equally valued. There's a lot of attention on everyone. So if you don't show up, if you don't do something, you're going to be called out on, and sometimes in a good way as well. It's good to have someone care about whether you show up to something as well. And that increases engagement organically very quickly as well, because people are able to remember, oh, I've got 2 or 3 other people to stay accountable to in order to achieve my goals, or to show up at this event, or to attend this course, and all of that. Number 2, we have gamifying the journey. So this is especially if you're running a cohort that's a competition, or letting your members create something for themselves. You can gamify what they do. So especially when you have a leaderboard, you can show them that, okay, here's a top 3 people. Number 1's going to get this prize. Number 2's going to get this prize. And it's a really fun way for people to always be on that kind of hunt in order to do more. So if you want people to, for example, create more user-generated content, it's a great way for people to say, oh, I've already generated 3 or 4, and that person generated 5, so I'm going to do 1 more. And it's a really easy way to get rewards to that member as well. So anything that you could, potentially give to people, like vouchers, or physical rewards, all of that is also really cool. And learning and teaching is another one that I love, which is particularly good for in-person events as well, or even online, is to empower members to share what they know. So if you have any skilled members in the community who are able to volunteer and to say, hey, I want to hop on the stage and I want to share to other people what I know, similar to the CMX, which is what we're doing right now. I'm definitely not one of the founding members of CMX, but I'm definitely a part of CMX, and I've been empowered to now share these deck of slides with you all today, which also increases the engagement for CMX and helps them grow as a community as well. So this is a great way to expand your community and to help incentivize participation and empowering users to actually be, a champion in this community. This is also a great way, if you're a member like myself, to ask for feedback, hopefully from the audience, so that I can also improve in what I do. So, I'm getting something in return just by being here. So you can see that this is a really efficient strategy. I won't go into comments and all of that, but you can look into that yourself to think which strategy suits you the best, or even come up with more as well. Let's step into the third part, which is empowerment. All right, so how might we make people feel supported by like-minded people, especially at the end of a journey? There is a lot of potential in the alumni that graduate from your cohort, and all of the people who finish this whole community, and they're looking into the next step, and they're thinking, oh, do I really have to leave this all behind? I've made incredible friendships here. I've made a lot of great people. Do I have to leave this all behind and just, go off and venture off on my own? And the answer is often no. If you don't have an exit strategy, you should definitely think of one, because there's two basic routes for people to exit usually. There is the route where they actually graduate. They might get a graduation pack, they might get some post-cohort celebration and go off in their way, or they could even come back and be empowered to be an alumni, a mentor, ambassador, all of these great things. So here is basically the two kind of flows in which you can think about this member journey for your own members as well. They can either stay or they can exit, and both have a lot of potential. So if you're exiting a community, there's a lot of ways in order to sustain that momentum to help people who they know also go to the same journey as well. For example, you can ask them for a testimonial or a video feedback, or ask them to refer other people that they know who could potentially also join your community. This is a way to also relive the stories of what they've already achieved throughout your community. If they've learned something that was really powerful, if they've done something that was really awesome, help them share that and promote that sharing. Be really active in helping the community members of today who have gone through that journey to share these stories, because these stories are really emotional and help people understand what the true values of a community are. And number two, which is really awesome one, is to champion your members. So oftentimes as community managers and builders ourselves, we don't have enough support for all the work that we do, right? The more there are members in our community, the lower the quality is sometimes, because we're so bombarded by all the work we have to do, all the admin work, all of the onboarding, registrations, and all of the housekeeping and moderation. There's a lot of work, right? But with support, so for example, if you have people who are helping you, there could be moderators, there could be ambassadors, or even alumni, the quality can actually increase exponent, like on par kind of thing, with the members as well. So the more members you have, the more supporters you have, and so the quality will never drop. And this is a great way for people to be empowered, such as in the community collective, of which both Sasmini and I are a part of today. And so you can see these are a few of the ambassadors and coaches, and as well as the alumni, such as me, who have been a part of the Community Collective. The Community Collective exists in Australia as a predominantly community-centric community. So they help people build communities, as well as empower the world to build impactful, change through community as well, through the 8-week cohort program. And they also, showcase a job, so recruitment, and as well as they have coaching. So all of that is what they offer, but they've empowered us. So there's a lot more people behind the scenes, not just these three and myself, who actually talk about Community Collective on a daily basis. Like, I'm still a part of the Slack channel, and I have been graduated for at least 2 or 3 months now. And that's just some of the ways in which you can actually engage and help champion a lot of these people to be a part of your community today, is that they don't have to be an existing member. They can also come back as alumni. They can also come back as an ambassador and help spread the cause in which you're doing. And so, for example, these are some of the great testimonials that they've had. I stole these from their website and for some of the notes that Sasmini was making throughout the cohort as well. So they're all talking about these one-to-one interactions, these opportunities that you have once you're in a community, and they're really great at basically advertising a community to a lot of new members as well, because they know what it's like to go through that journey. They know the challenges, they know what they've gotten out of it, and they can vouch organically that this is a community that's valuable to a certain type of people. And that leads us to the last exercise. So we also don't have to do this right now, especially wary of time. But think about what member's role could you possibly create in order to champion your existing members to build it alongside you. So you don't have to do this all alone. You don't have to be bombarded by all this admin work and all this moderation. How can you actually empower other existing members to be champions? And this is the fun catch. Whenever you ask people to volunteer or to also contribute, has to be something in return for them. A lot of the times these volunteers are also, have a lot of work to do, have a lot of commitments. But if they're consistently getting something in return, there's going to be a reason for them to help you. For example, me, who I'm an alumni of the Community Collective, Community Collective has all these cohorts on all this content and all these speakers who come on every single cohort. I only joined one of the cohorts, but if I'm an alumni, I can be on a lifetime package to join every single other cohort as long as I'm an alumni for that cohort, as long as I'm helping them out, being a mentor, engaging with the community, engaging with new members especially. I can always be there to basically have a never-ending flow of content and resources and people to network with forever. And so that's the value that which you can bring to your volunteers and your potential ambassadors and alumni as well. And the last two is basically planning the exit. So if there is anything that, they need to kind of move on with, if your members are saying, okay, I'm actually done with this chapter, I'm kind of leaving and I'm going to move on. What is it? How can you communicate the graduation process to them? It's going to be a natural process. You can't just prevent your members from leaving. Sometimes they're leaving for good reasons as well. So how can you make that really smooth? How can you still extend that impact through their graduation in order for them to always keep you front in mind whenever they think about potentially new members who could potentially come and join you as well? So the graduation and planning the exit can be really important. It could be as simple as giving them a little gift, or asking them to share or writing a blog article or something about them, about their journey, so you can always have that impact within your community as well. And once you want to extend the impact, obviously, you can also allow people to support you outside. So referrals, testimonials, all of that we've already spoken about. So the last few slides are basically just takeaways and wrapping things up. But if we wanted to break down those three questions again, which was how do we define purpose in a community? We will use the law of attraction in order to define our clear vision and mission statement. Also, we need to plan our impact so that we are on a success journey throughout achieving that vision and mission. Secondly, how do we connect with people online in an authentic way? We need to create an environment of vulnerability and trust. There has to be trust. A lot of those inhuman interactions are all based on trust, right? But whenever you're in an online environment, all that trust just disappears. It becomes, dust. So how can you reignite that trust and vulnerability? How can you incentivize the participation? Lastly, how can we consistently feel supported by a community of like-minded people? And the answer is you need to empower your members to empower others. Help them keep the momentum going, help them be advocates of what you do, right? Once you've done all the work in order to bring together all these like-minded people, all these people who are trusting in your values that you're doing, they can be also, advocates and to show other people what your community is all about. So pretty simple, right? It's not that hard, obviously, but there's always going to be hiccups along the way. And so hopefully these takeaways will help guide you whenever you have questions around engaging and bringing purpose back into your community. And just a little quote that I'd like to end with is that there is something innately human about belonging to something greater than ourselves, to feel validated and accepted regardless of their differences. This was written in a newsletter through the Connection Manifesto by a good friend of mine. And I just love this quote because it helps me think more about community as a human interaction. Belonging to something greater than ourselves is something just innately human of us to feel and to want. The reason why we feel isolated is because we want to belong to something greater. And the reason why we're grateful and whenever we think about gratitude brings us happiness because we are grateful for the people around us who can help us, who can make us feel comfortable, who can make us feel secure. And so when you're grateful about all these things, you're also understanding and accepting that you're belonging to something greater, and you're feeling validated and accepted, and regardless of your differences and uniqueness as well. So the last slide is basically done, and we are here in our questions and answers. Hopefully we have just a few minutes before we end in at about 7 minutes. So if there's any questions I could take, or any of the discussion panel is all open for anyone else to also jump in and to talk about what they work on. Thank you, Sasmini.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Um, would like to see if anyone has any questions. Let me just check Q&A. Oh, so we don't have any questions in the Q&A, but if anyone has any question, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up as well. Um, but thank you so much, Michelle. Like I learned a lot about like how the I actually have a question myself that I think like something that you can like shed light on a bit, which is about like how most of us like how like when it comes to building purposeful communities and connecting our purpose into the communities that we build, we also often get confused between having an audience and having a community, right? And I know like that you have like a really good explanations about like how audience differ from community and the funnel. Would you like to explain a bit about like turning your audience into like purposeful community?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I did forget to mention that. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, so I guess the first part of the question is, what is the differences between audience and a community? To me, an audience is a group of people. So think of it as like a hierarchy, right? So you have you and your co-founders or whatever your community managers are at the top, and you have a bunch of people at your bottom, right? It's like you're the king of this village and nobody knows you. And people might not even know each other because they're all so isolated. They all kind of had this interaction with you. Um, and so there's always this kind of like one-to-one approach. So people don't know anyone else rather than just you. So for example, if you're starting off as a newsletter subscription or a YouTube channel or a social media platform, right? Everybody's interacting with your content and something that you do individually. And so they don't necessarily know what other people are there to do as well. Do your followers, or your subscription, your email list, do those people actually interact with each other? Is there some sort of way for them to all be in the same place in order for connections to happen? When you think about community, the easiest way is to think of it as a network, right? If you need to connect a lot of, I guess, like nodes in a network, you need each node to at least be connected to one or two nodes in order to be a network, right? If you ever have one person coming into your community not knowing a single person, they're most likely not going to feel like they're a part of that community. But as soon as they understand that, okay, I'm here and I know you and we're both part of this community, I'm now labeled community member in this community. And that's how you kind of engage an audience to become a community as well, as to help them know each other. That's a simple answer. Help them, interact with at least one or two people in there so that they feel like they're now more engaged, there's more at stake, their rapport and their personal kind of like the way they show up and everything is now being appreciated and valued by other people. That's how you turn an audience into a community. But not necessarily is something that you need to do at the stage of your business or at the stage of what you're working on as well. If you're starting off to, inspire a lot of people to work on something, you could start off using a newsletter or a YouTube channel or any sort of those, platforms where you're interacting with an audience, a large audience. But as soon as you need people to interact with each other, then you've got a community. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, thank you so much. Community forms like where everyone kind of like feels a sense of belonging through like interactions and communications, which kind of ultimately decide on what community means to everyone, right? Yes, thank you. If we don't have any other questions, I think we can wrap up this session. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay,
I'd also thank Dida for the lovely comment in the comments in the chats. Thank you so much. This is my first time running through this slide deck, so I'm really happy that it's been informative and beneficial.
thank you.
Um,
Thank you so much, Michelle. It was a really lovely event. Thank you so much for all the um, uh, uh, insightful comments and information that you brought up in terms of like the building purposeful communities for us, especially starting from how like you define your purpose, and that will attract the community members that you want to have around you, and then sort of go into like how to keep them and then how to empower them. So thank you so much for taking your time and giving us your time and explaining the whole process to us and giving us so many things to think about in our community life as well. Because as community professionals, one thing is like we always like have to work with others, and at the same time we always like before initiating we always question like, oh, is this right, is this like what everyone else is doing, is this a common practice, is this something innovative, is this something good? So many questions. So it is so good to have you take us through all of this. So thank you so much, and thank you again everyone who took part today, and thank you for having being here throughout and listening in despite your work commitments and everything else. So again, thank you. I can't enough thank everyone. So yeah, so this concludes our event for the day. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will be coming back with another CMX Connect, and I'll keep you posted on your emails. So have a really good rest of the day, everyone.